series. Thank you very much for joining, but we only have 9 of us online at this time. And so if you will indulge me, we will give ourselves maybe about 5 minutes and get a few more people on board, then we will kick it off. I think today is going to be exciting because once we have finished with all the things that we have learned, you were writing your paper, you have done so much, you have used the databases, you have checked to make sure that you are not flouting any what's that thing called? You are not flouting any rules that have to do with people's rights, copyrights, and patent and all of that. You have made sure that you have the information that you have. Now you believe you have written your paper. So you want to be able to send it out. How do you work on your abstract? That's what we are going to discuss today. But before we go into that, please indulge us a few more minutes to get a few more people to join us so that we can start. So we'll give ourselves another 5 to 10 minutes, if you will permit. Thank you. Series. As you are aware, we've been having these sessions since January. And so far, we've gone through quite a bit. We've looked at what's next after being a pharmacist. We've looked at referencing properly. We've looked at ensuring that we are citing so that we avoid being cited for plagiarism. And we've also looked at copyright matters. Today, we are going to look at how to prepare our abstract. And so we are working from the point that we've done our work, you have your paper, you've made sure that you have complied with all the things that we have discussed, following your research, your results and everything, you have put everything together. And now you want to prepare an abstract which will be acceptable, perhaps for the Ghana College of Pharmacists AGM, when we come around again next year, you would have prepared, you are looking at another conference, or you want to submit your paper to the GCP journal, and you want to ensure that your submission, your abstract meets the requirements. Or there are some thoughts that you have gathered on some areas and you want to put together an abstract for the purposes of exploring, getting people to be interested in the area of research. These are all the things that we are going to talk about today. But before we start, may I ask that you join me in a word of prayer. Our Father, we thank you so much for today. We thank you for how far you have brought us. We pray that you will grant us all understanding. Help us. Let everything that we do here glorify you in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 So before we, no, not before. Today, presenting for us is a senior pharmacist. He has a lot of credentials. I'm sure when he takes over, he will give us some more introduction. Some of us know him as a former PSGH president, and he is currently the editor of the GCP Journal, and he has actually edited and worked on editorial committees for a number of publications. He is also a fellow of the Ghana College of Pharmacists. He has other things. Maybe, Mr. Bruce, when you take over, you will share some of them with us so that we will also enjoy being associated with you a bit more. And so I'll ask you to take over. Would you like me to share your slides, or would you share from your end?
No, share the slides.
All right.
For me. Try to come to
Okay.
so that
Okay. So yes. And so with that, I will hand over to pharmacist Oscar Bruce. Please take over, sir.
Yeah, but I hope you'll be changing the slides as I request, is it?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, good afternoon, colleagues. As you can see from the first slide, my name is Oscar Bruce, and it's a pleasure to facilitate today's masterclass session entitled Writing an Abstract. I think we should go to the next. I think you've said enough about me, so I don't want to say anything more about myself. So let's go to the yes. Yes. Writing an abstract, a concise presentation of your work. It is hoped that at the end of this session, you will all be able to write first-class abstracts, especially for your research papers. We begin with the outline of the presentation. We shall first define the abstract and then move on to mention the different types there are. This will be followed by an attempt to discuss what goes into writing one. We shall look at the structural forms of abstracts and then go on to talk about the importance of the abstract. A brief acknowledgement will be made, and then we shall conclude with a reference slide. Next. Yes. So now, what is the abstract? Houghton says it is a summary of the information in the document. And in fact, that is what it simply is. It's a summary of information in the document. And a well-prepared abstract enables readers to identify the basic content of a document quickly and accurately, to determine its relevance to their interests, and thus to decide whether they need to read the document in its entirety. And this is according to the American National Institute. For me, it is the easiest part of a scientific or research paper to write, and I'm sure you would all agree with me. Now, we go to the two types of abstracts. There are two major types of abstracts. The first is the informative abstract. This is the one used in research papers, the one you will need most. And they are designed to condense the paper. Note, they are designed to condense the paper. They are usually of 300 to 500 words. The second type of abstract is the descriptive or indicative abstract. This is the type used for review papers, conference reports, and others. It is designed to indicate the subjects dealt with in the paper. They are generally of few words, say 100 to 300. You may have read somewhere that there are other types, But anytime you critically consider those ones, you will realize that they are just a mixture of the two in different proportions. So these are the two major ones. Those are the others you read about are just a combination of the two in different proportions. That's all. Next, the informative type. Yes. At this point, I want us to delve a little bit more into the two types. I have said earlier that informative abstract is used in research papers, and they are designed to condense the paper. What this means is that this kind of abstract is derived or drawn from the scientific or research paper. We therefore need to know exactly what the scientific paper is, what sections are there, and what the sections contain. First of the sections that it has is the introduction. I mean, it has the introduction, the method, result, discussion, and conclusion. So let's take the introduction. Now, the introduction answers, yes, the what and why of the study. It should provide the rationale for the study. It should state briefly and clearly one's purpose in writing the paper. Pertinent literature are reviewed in here to orient the reader. Much of it is written in present tense, and it is, in addition to this, method of investigation and principal conclusions suggested by the result are stated briefly here. Now let's move on. Next, the method. Yeah. The method answers the how of the study. The reason for choice of methods are given and defended. And remember that it should be detailed enough to facilitate reproducibility. This usually have subheadings, since the method used may involve different activities, and it is mostly written in past tense. Next. The result answered what are the findings of the study. It provides the big picture of the study, that is, some kind of overall description of the experiment, without, however, repeating the experiment details provided under materials. It presents data, which is the core of the paper, and it is presented in the past tense. Next. The discussions answers the so what of the study. It tells us what the results mean, whether their interpretations agree or contrast with previous published works. Next. And then the conclusion. The conclusion is derived from the results, and evidence of each conclusion is summarized. Next. Now, what about the descriptive or indicative type? As I indicated earlier, it is this type that is used for review papers, conference papers, and the like. The purpose of a review paper is to review previously published literature and to put it in some kind of perspective. Literature review is the principal product of the reviews. It is designed to indicate the subjects dealt with in the paper, just to indicate. It can seldom serve as a substitute for the full paper, unlike the informative one. They are usually long and the subject fairly general. Okay, let's go on. Now we shall now move on to write the abstract proper. And again, we begin with the informative abstract. The informative abstract traditionally has 4 sections, namely the introduction, the method, the results, and the conclusion. The discussion is conspicuously missing here, and I believe we can all guess why. This abstract, again, as I have pointed out, is a summary of, and therefore derived from the research paper. So it must, by all means, provide only information stated in the paper. So the strategy is that you read the subheadings of the paper and extract the essential points therefrom. For example, you read and extract the answers to the what and why of the study from the introduction, and so forth. I mean, how from the method you read, extract, and maybe you underline them as you go along. Yeah, as you go along. Most or all of it is written in the past. References to the paper are not cited. Things like tables, figures, and long quotations are not acceptable here. Also, acronyms and abbreviations are not used here. Sometimes it is refreshing to use vocabularies and phrases different from those used in the write-up. You know, because you are taking this portion, the little portions from the ones that are already written, you know, sometimes they become monotonous. So you want to change some similar words, synonyms to replace those, so it will look a little more refreshing. Having done all this, one needs to revise their work by checking for grammatical and spelling errors. And then finally, the finished work could be given to a peer for review and feedback. You give it to a peer, he will read it and then tell you, well, it can change this or that and that. Yes. And I believe that once a person can write the informative abstract, he can easily write a descriptive one. And now, since we are also, our virtual practicals, I would say, in inverted commas, will dwell mainly on informative abstract, I thought it's prudent to just present here an example of an indicative abstract for us to analyze, bearing in mind all that has been said about the attributes of abstract, especially the indicative abstract. And I'll read this with you. Follow closely, and then we shall kind of analyze it, and you see that, because you will see the difference between this and the formative as we try to do our practicals. A new survey, the title is Design of a Radio-Based System for Distribution Automation. A new survey by the Maryland Public Service Commission suggests that utilities have not effectively explained to consumers the benefits of smart meters. The 2-year study of 86,000 consumers conclude that the long-term benefits of smart meters will not be realized until consumers understand the benefits of shifting some of their power usage to off-peak hours in response to the data they receive from their meters. The study presents recommendations. Note this, the study presents recommendations for utilities and municipal governments to improve customer understanding of how to use the smart meters effectively. So this is supposed to be an indicative or descriptive abstract written for a paper that is entitled Design of a Radio-Based System for Distribution Automation. In the first sentence, one can identify the method used for the study as well as its finding. Even in the first sentence, you have the method and then the findings, even in the first sentence. Unlike if you compare to the other abstracts, it is very strict. We have the order of this thing. Then the conclusion is in there. You notice that the conclusion is in the second sentence. And note also, finally, that the last sentence is quite indicative. It does not tell us what the recommendations are. It only tells us that the paper has recommendations. You know, it's not telling us the substance. It's not substantive. It's only indicating to it. You know, that's a very difference between. So you see, you cannot use this type of what I would say abstract for a research paper. Research paper, you have to tell us exactly what the information are in there. So I guess you see the difference between, but this one, of course, is somewhere in the middle. It gives you some of the method used and this, but you can clearly see the indicative nature of it, that it only points, indicate to you what is in the distance, but not the substance. Okay, so we move on. Let's go on. Next. Shall we move on?
Hello?
Hello, can we move on?
Okay.
Let's go to the next slide. So now we move to the.
So you are not in the meeting at all.
Structures of the abstract. Structurally, there are two types of abstracts: the block or unstructured type, and the structured type. In the case of the former, the entire abstract is in one piece, whilst in the latter, it is broken up into 4 components, labeled appropriately and placed in order. This usually applies to informative abstracts. Well, in recent times, I've seen some that appear to be like in between the two, the structured and then the block one. You know, seems to be structured. It starts with the introduction, then continues with the substance of the introduction, then comes to the method, and then continues. So that it looks like a block, but you still have the subheadings inside the abstract. But basically, there are the two types. That is the block and the structured. The block, it's one whole complete this thing that contains all this thing. And usually this applies mainly to the informative abstracts, where you can either have this structured or not structured, but usually with the indicating, it's almost always a block type, because they don't usually divide it into the subheads. So this is for the structure of the abstract. Now, the importance of abstracts. The importance of abstracts can be found in the writing of research papers. The main reason we are staging these classes is to get participants conduct, write, and publish research papers. And one cannot produce an acceptable research paper if it does not include an abstract. You know, after you've done everything, you must include an abstract. So, you know, so that anybody who wants to read the whole thing will first read the abstract and see if that's exactly what he wants to read before he goes on to read the whole thing. And then I'm sure the last time we were taught about how to use search engines to look for abstracts and full papers. Yes. So another thing is that we have bibliographic database index abstracts. And these are often either the databases are there, but they often use abstracts. Of course, some of them go on to provide the full text of the paper. But they could also direct you to where you can get the full paper, but they usually use the abstracts. You know, there are a lot of papers out there putting all the abstracts in. I mean, for you to read, to determine which one you want will be a little too difficult. So of course, they use these two. Examples of such bibliographic, online bibliographic databases is the Medline, which is the largest subset of PubMed. And then finally, abstracts are usually requested for conference organizers, as it helps them to select appropriate papers for presentation during the event. It is also the case that institutions that provide financial support to students sometimes require that applying students show evidence of having produced a research paper before. And in this case, instead of demanding the full paper, provision of an abstract of the paper is usually considered sufficient. So these are what I consider the three main reasons why we make abstracts, and this therein is the importance of abstracts. Next. Yes, so that is it. And I think I cannot end without making this acknowledgement. I'm very grateful to the rector, Fam Yvonne E. Iseku, for assisting me to get this work done in the presentation. I mean, showing the slides from there. Next slide. And of course, there are a couple of these things, the reference that I mentioned there. Next slide. That's the end. Thank you for your attention. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bruce. Thank you for this concise and very informative presentation. So I'm sure that all of us here, and I do not know whether that is the reason today we are so few, because the email said you should read the paper before the meeting. So
so they have run away.
Yes. Yes. So now, as we normally do, we have a practice session, but perhaps before we go into that, if there are any burning questions, maybe there is something that Pharmacist Bruce mentioned that was not very clear to you, and you need that clarification in order to be able to practice, do our practice work effectively. We'll give ourselves maybe a minute or two to see if one or two of us have some burning questions that we need to ask before we go into our breakout rooms. So if that is the case, you can raise your hand, and then I'll call you and you will ask your question, and Pharmacist Bruce will answer it. Okay, there are no hands up, which means that all of us understood clearly. We do not have any questions. We can now go into our groups and prepare our, do the assignment. And once again, I am hoping that we have all done, read the paper that was circulated. So we are going into 4 groups. Hey, I see that our numbers are going down. Is that by mistake or? So we are going into 4 groups. Group 1, so just take note of it. When you get into your group, you will. Group 1 is going to look at the introduction and the method in the paper that was circulated. Group 2 will look at the method and results. Group 3 will look at results and conclusion. And group 4 will look at conclusion and introduction. So when we come back into the plenary,
again, please.
Okay, so group 1, introduction and method. Group 2, method and results. Group 3, result and conclusion. Group 4, conclusion and introduction. So, I mean, you can go in any order. The presumption, once again, is that we have all read it. If you get into the group and maybe there is somebody who is able to brief us, we can do that. Let us remember that when we have finished our work, we want to be able to capture all the information that we are having in a maximum of 500 words. As we were told, it is between 300 and 500 words. We can work with the presumption that the conference or the journal has given us the leeway between 300 and 500 words. When we have finished, we will have an introduction, we'll have method, we'll have results, and we'll have conclusion. And so once we have all read that, we just go into our groups, look again at the headings as we were told, try to capture the information, the necessary information that will go into the abstract into these groups. And then when we come back, we'll come and discuss them. We will discuss them according to the topic. So group 1 and group 4 will share with us what they got in introduction. Group 1 and 2 will share with us what they got in method. Group 2 and 3 will share with us what they got in results. And group 3 and 4 will share with us what they got with respect to the conclusion. And we'll summarize that and finish with our abstract when we are set. And so with that, I'll ask my IT support people to take us into our groups. And I will come into each group, and maybe if you have forgotten, just remind you, Mr. Bruce will also be moving in to support us as we go along. So please, IT, please put us into our groups.
So
group 1, and then we will listen to group 4 on what it is that they brought together as introduction. And when we finish, we can have, maybe we will discuss it, and our resource person, Pharmacist Bruce, will give us his comments on maybe what we may have missed or something like that. So we'll start it that way. We'll go through it one at a time. Hopefully we can use about 10 minutes for each of the topics, and then we'll be through. So we'll start with group 1. Group 1, please share with us.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Rector. I think the introduction, we have to look at the what and the why. And the what of the study was the assessment of community pharmacies in Sagamu, Southwest Nigeria, meeting the needs and expectations of the elderly client. And the why is in two folds. The why centered on the fact that the elderly in general concerning developing nations are the larger population, and they tend to have more comorbidities, making them dependent on pharmaceuticals, and therefore would assess community pharmacies as their first point of call for their care. And the second why is such studies in comparison with the developed nations have not been done in developing countries. And therefore the location was Sagamu, Southwest Nigeria, for such a study. So that is what, in brief, what we had as a team for group 1 in terms of introduction.
Thank you very much. Good. So now we will listen to group 4.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I represent group 4. And for group 4,
hello.
Network.
Okay.
Researcher.
Go on.
The researcher was trying to evaluate why geriatric customers were not well satisfied using different conceptualizations with respect to their medication, their pharmaceutical care. So the what was about the fact that there has been a number of these studies on customer satisfaction, but there are, when it comes to the sub-Saharan Africa, we have scanty information, and especially in Ghana. But for the purpose of this research, it was for the Sagamu area of the southwest of Nigeria, that they wanted to know, the researcher wanted to add on to information. That is for the what. And then the why is for him to evaluate customer satisfaction at the community pharmacies concerning geriatric customers, so that you'll be able to ascertain whether his results will be in line with the previous studies that have been done. So that is what actually I put it down for the introduction.
Thank you very much. So perhaps for those of us, yes, Mr. Bruce, please go ahead.
No, I was saying that I would rather prefer to have comments from the participants first before we can, maybe I can come in and what does some of us, the others, also see, even though they didn't work there, they must have read, perhaps you read all the paper that was sent to you. So what are does any of you also have a view on it? What do you think? Or do you get what I'm saying?
Yes, please.
Yes.
So please, if you have any ideas, what do you think about what has been presented? What do you think? Do you think
Yes.
something has been left out?
Or
do you think something which shouldn't have been added has been added?
Exactly.
Please, what was Group 4 supposed to look at? Because I got confused along the line.
Group 4 was supposed to look at the introduction and the conclusion.
Oh, okay. So with the introduction, I was thinking that as a form of introduction, you just have to give a brief, should I say, background to the topic being investigated. And then you add on the why, which is supposed to be more like the aim of the study. That's what I was thinking should form the introduction.
Well, I think you are right. I mean, you are right in that. It should be brief. I think the first guy who came did quite by making it what was the what and why and brief. And then the group, is it Group 4? Yes, Group 4 got the idea, except that they were too lengthy.
Okay.
It was too lengthy, but I think you've all got an idea. So I think you got, like I said, so you generally read the introduction, identify the why and what, which someone was saying is the background and objective is the same about, I mean, roughly that was about it. And then you make it as brief as possible. So that, for example, I would go, or should I give an example? I mean, how I would have done it, or we should finish everything first?
No, please go ahead with the example on the introduction.
See, so I will give what I think should be brief enough, and so that you can compare to what you have done, because you are all on the same, on the right path, except there are some few these things. I will say that the geriatrics, I mean, the old people, due to their frail and impairment, have different perception of health needs for their younger cohorts, and require special care. Little is known about the extent to which their needs are met in community pharmacy. I mean, if you read all the background and all these things. So that is why the writer wants to study, I mean, evaluate the geriatric parent satisfaction with community pharmacy services in the area that he studied. I hope you get it, as brief as that.
Yes.
Yeah, I hope you got it.
Yes.
So that is how it should be. So this should not take more, just about 2, in fact, 3 sentences, really.
Okay.
That is my view. Maybe some of you too has, I mean, Rita, perhaps you also have you have something to say about that.
Oh yes, I mean, I don't know if it is yes I wanted to say, but I agree that it has to be very brief, and I think the essence is to capture the what and the why, as you told us in the presentation. So, and we should bear in mind that when you have put all of this is just one part. When you have put all this together, you are targeting 300 to 500 words, which is not a lot. So we have to bear that in mind. And brevity is, so long as what we want to put in has come in, I think the point is made.
Please, Rita, can I ask something?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, I can, imagine that, or conclude that the introduction must be the shortest part of the whole abstract, the various parts of the abstract, and then also I gathered from Mr. Bruce, the presenter. Remember, he mentioned that you can go your own way to reframe, and for that matter, summarize some of the contents of the document. And his summary actually follows that line. So that's what I wanted to add.
Yeah, precisely, yes. So that you change some of the few to give it some new touch.
Yes.
And so that's what I was saying in our group, that to do some of these things, you must really be good in English so that you can make long sentences very short. You have to be very good at the English language. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Mr. Sam.
Okay. Rector, please, I'm done.
Thank you very much. So now we will move on to our next set, and we'll be taking the method. So we will hear from group 2 first, and then group 1. So group 2, please, method.
Hello.
Grace. Yes.
Yes,
Grace.
please. So I'm from group 2 and I'm presenting on the method. So it was a cross-sectional study involving 269 elderly clients in Sagamu, Southwest Nigeria. Convenience sampling was used for client selection. A 22-item instrument was used in data collection. Descriptive and inferential statistical analysis were done using the SPSS software. So please, that's what we have for the method.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, that's good.
What about results?
No, we are doing method first.
Do method.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So please, group 1, method.
Group 1, I think she has mentioned almost everything, but because it was actually a cross-sectional study of 269 sampled clients covered from January to March 2015 in Sagamu, Southwest part of Nigeria, from 12 registered community pharmacies. And it was a survey using a questionnaire that was then, the result was then described using SPSS. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you very much. So please, any comments from participants? Maybe you read the document and you want to add something, or you think something should be taken out. Any comments?
Can I give some comments, Dada?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'm delighted that my secretary left some figures out. We added the P and then the Chi and those things, but I think she has left them out, and properly so. Because
I think, Mr. Samuel, we did that for the results session.
Oh, is that so?
Yes, please.
Oh, not the
No, please.
No, but at least you must mention that what you used to get those results. maybe
Okay.
under method.
Okay.
The instruments
Okay.
you use to get those, it could be mentioned. Anyway,
The instruments, but okay.
Like the chi-square and
Yes,
those other
Constance is
ones.
right. Constance is right. They do. They are in the.
In the
They are in the
result.
results.
yes,
So
the result.
I think I deviated.
Okay, Pharmacist Amwa, did you want to say something?
Oh, I'm okay, madam.
Great. Okay.
Mm.
So, Mr. Bruce,
Hello.
do you want to comment?
Oh, okay. Well, I think what you said is okay. What is? But have the two of them have spoken? Yes.
Yes.
I would. Well, let me give what I have, and then you maybe will compare with it. You see, the study was cross-sectional, utilizing questionnaires administered to 269 geriatric customers in 12 communities in Nigeria between 5th of January and I think these ones are necessary to the date. You know, when you read, the person will see whether it is it was done recently, or you will also want to know quickly whether it was recent and old. So, convenience sampling was used for customer selection. The 22 item instrument was used to explore respondent satisfaction with various aspects of pharmaceutical services offered by the community pharmacies, such as provision of drug information, among others. You know, because that's exactly what they did. I mean, and then descriptive statistics, including frequency and percentage, were used to summarize the data, while chi-square was used for test of proportions. The a priori level for statistical significance was considered at p less than 0.05. You get, I suppose you get what. So that's the methods that were used. That's why sometimes you have to have sub headings for the method because of the different things, activities that you do to get this thing. Because and it should be enough so that quickly people who, I mean, of course, the details will be in the for reproducibility will be in this thing, but there should be enough for him to know that, I mean, what different activities were used in the method. So this is what I think. Hello.
Okay.
This is what I think, but I'm not all knowing. So of course, some of you two will have a different idea. How about you, Madam Rector?
Okay, so I think yes, we should it would be good to have a little detail of exactly the work that was done, and I think you summarize it quite well. So the various tests or assessments that were done with the result, descriptive, this was done, this was done, this was done. So yes, so we should all take note of that there are times when in the abstract there should be a little more detail than in the perhaps in the in the result there should be a little more detail than in the introduction, because really the work, the method, the work that you have done is based on the method that you used. So the methodology is very important. So we have to see what you did, the kind of analysis that you did, and not the detail, but anybody who understands that should be able to recognize it when they take a look. Yeah.
Can I add?
Well said.
Yes, sir.
Can I add?
Yes.
Yes, there's one word I want to call everybody's attention. Rego. When I was doing mine, that was what I was told. You have to demonstrate the rigorousness in the method that you use. I think that's what I want to add?
Yes, that is why we are saying that it should be reproducible. So it has to be very complete so that hey, anybody who takes it can also reproduce it. That's science. That is what science is all about. Okay.
Thank
Over
you.
to you, madam.
So now we will look at results. And once again, since group 2 has already spoken, we will take results from group 3 first before we listen to group 2. So group 3, please, results. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm representing group 3.
Great.
We actually started the conclusion, but we had a little bit, we didn't finish with the results, but I can give what we've done. Okay,
Yes,
out
please.
of the 250 clients out of 269 participated in this study, of which there were more females, that's 70, representing 28%, than males. 49, representing 19.6%, reported with hypertension in this study. Then, okay. There was significant association between gender and prevalence of hypertension in the study respondents. That's p-value of 0.000. Pharmacist accessibility, availability, courtesy, and counseling time were significantly associated with frequency of clients' visitation to the community pharmacies, p-value of 0.000. Okay, then there was significant association between level of literacy and the perception of respondents about conduciveness of pharmacy environment with p-value of 0.046. Then the other part, majority of the clients, 136, representing 54.4%, agree that pharmacists regularly checked with them the effectiveness of their medication, while 41, representing 16.4%, claimed they had never had such opportunity. A few respondents, 46, representing 18.4%, claimed that pharmacists hurriedly explained doses and side effects of their medications. The respondents' opinions about satisfaction with quality of service. Okay, so we left, that's what we had. That's
Okay.
what we had.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So can we also hear from group 2 on results?
Okay, so for group 2 on results, we said the pharmacist's accessibility, availability, courtesy, and counseling time were significantly associated with frequency of clients' visitation to the community pharmacist. P equals 0.000, 0.000, 0.001, 0.000 respectively. The results analysis also showed that educated clients were more likely to be shown courtesy and respect more than the illiterate. X squared equals 34.588, P equals 0.000. Then there was significant association level of literacy and the perception of respondents about conduciveness of pharmacy environment. P equals 0.046. Pharmacists' accessibility was, however, found to be significantly associated with willingness to pay among the survey respondents. P equals 0.012. Please, that's what we had for the results. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, any comments from participants?
I want to ask a question.
Please go ahead, sir.
I'm wondering whether we all were in sync as far as the topic of the research was concerned. I'm only asking.
In fact, it's a very good question. Yes, I thought we were, because it was given when they sent the paper to you. It was given. It was provided, wasn't it?
Oh, but we should have highlighted it copiously here.
Yes.
Because in my group, somebody asked the topic of the research.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh.
So I think that is also another subject altogether, because everything derives from the topic. So
In
I'm
fact,
done.
Yeah, you are right, because in our section, I pointed it. At least maybe they were lucky to have me. I pointed it out to them that it must eventually relate to the topic of the research. You know, that even for the conclusion, it's drawn from the results. So you cannot have a conclusion when you don't even read the results. You see, and then they must, agree with the title. You know, if perhaps the last speaker had done that, it wouldn't. Perhaps she wouldn't put in so much in the results. You know, it would have been shorter. So I think it's a good point you made. You must know the title. In fact, we talked about this, me and the rector, before we decided that we would post the titles, add titles for for participants to know, because everything was related to that. You know, the research questions and things. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a very good question you asked.
We are all learning, so yeah. Okay. So
Rita, do you have anything to say before I can also?
Please go ahead, sir.
Oh, I think that they all still have in line to make a good this thing, but I think results. But I think they were too long. There were too many things that were really added there. You see, if you should also think about the title of this thing, what you're actually looking for, you see, so that you concentrate on the result that would, briefly, so that it will be brief. All these were quite a lot, what have been said so far. You see? Of course, we know that the response rate must be mentioned. Then the majority of the respondents were female and married. I think those ones too must be there. Gender and this thing. Majority, then you're going to say the majority of respondents, that's about 92.6, were satisfied with pharmacists' assessment of therapy. Because the whole thing is about the assessment of the services being rendered by. And then 85.9% were satisfied with pharmacy intervention in cases of therapeutic failure, or what do you call it? And then pharmacy service were considered helpful in improving the health the health by majority of the respondents. You know, that was, and then the information provision. You should assess. We should have also said something about the information provision. The fact that they were satisfied with the medication information management skill. I think that should have been all. For the abstract, the rest should have been should be in the main paper. So that is, you have to take into account that you are trying to make it as short as possible, but it must contain the results that would justify the title.
Hello,
so that is hello.
Please, sorry, Madam Rector, I just had to cut it. Please, Van Bruce, are you saying that in abstract, your results should be linked to the topic? irrespective of the other findings that you other results that you get as you are reading or be preparing your research. Because you have a title, but as you go into research and questions, it's most likely you come across other things. But in the abstract, you have to just state the results that coincide with the research topic and forget about the rest.
Well, you see, that would depend. I mean, well, so far as what you say, it's a summary of the long paper, of a long distance. So you say what is in the long paper, and your results will depend on the method to that you what you will do to get the results. So if you have and it must also comply with your research questions or the title. The research questions should answer the topic, what you want. Here, geriatric customer satisfaction with community pharmacy service. So everything must be geared towards the services rendered in the community pharmacies in that thing. So if you can have as many what you consider as the services that they render. So far as it's in the method, then must also be in the result. In the result. If you've done it, if you worked on it, the result must also reflect on it. Am I clear?
Yes, please. Yes,
I believe in this case, it doesn't mean it should necessarily conform to the research question, but I believe what you are trying to say is that whatsoever result you have gotten, whether it is in conformity or not, you summarize it in the abstract. I think that is the basic understanding. So not necessarily that everything should conform to what you were expecting.
So that one, of course, if you are expecting that they were satisfied, and that's what you're expecting, but in your work, they weren't satisfied. Obviously, that's what you would use. These are the results that you would. That's what you're talking about there. Whether it conforms, whether it agrees with your research questions or not. Is that what you're saying?
That is what he was trying to ask.
Oh, okay. No, it can validate or unvalidate what the title. It's your result that you just put there. You know what I'm saying? It's the result that what you get is what, and then the conclusion will come as we go on. But what I'm saying that they must be related. I mean, the conclusion too must be related. So let's go on. I'm sure we'll find out when we get there.
Thank you. Pharmacist Samuel Tinkran, your hand is up.
Yes, just a brief one. I thought I got a sense from the questioner. I got a sense that, okay, as much as you have to relate, your results to the title, if there was any further observation, where do you place it? That was the understanding I got. Please, is that right, the questioner? Where do you place, if there was any observation that may not quite relate to the research questions for that matter, where do you place it? Do you summarize that one also in the
I think, yes, sir. I think
you can,
that, okay.
I think you can do that. I mean, so far as you've used the method to find something, there must be a reason why you wanted to use the method to find the results you get. It must, as much as possible, it should appear in the results. If it's a result
in the abstract,
yes, it should appear in the abstract. You see, that's why you should try and make it as brief as possible. You should try and make it as brief as possible. But the results you had must be must be put there.
Okay.
Yeah, so maybe if I can also add how I understand the discussion so far.
Okay.
I think perhaps the initial question was, or the idea is maybe you do your research, you are expecting that the people are not satisfied, and you find out that the people are satisfied. Should you capture that in your abstract? But I think what we are saying now is that what you put in your abstract is based on what you put in your paper. So supposing you were writing the paper to say that in my findings, so yes, your topic is customer satisfaction, and you find out that they are not satisfied. Or your topic is customer satisfaction, but okay, that was the research you were going to do, but then you find out that maybe even though the customers are satisfied, the people who go to the pharmacy die earlier. How do you capture that? I think when you are writing the paper, you can actually write a separate paper talking about relating the death rate to use of pharmacies, if you want to do that. But that is a separate paper from customer satisfaction. So once your paper is on customer satisfaction, all your results should be related to customer satisfaction, whether the customers were satisfied or not. Now, if in your research you found other information which do not fit within this, you may want to write another paper which will publish your findings in the research under another topic. Then in that case, that topic, whatever results that are related to that topic is what you are putting in your paper. And so that is what will appear in your abstract. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I share that view. Yeah, so everything is, the topic is very important because that's what you want to, you are working at. No, but of course you can get a different result from what you are expecting from this thing, and that is. But if you are working towards that, then that's what. If it's something completely different from there, scientific research is quite specific. Right from the beginning, you know your objective, you know your objective, what you want to. The study aimed at evaluating geriatric patient satisfaction with community. So straight away you go to that. So that is what should be, the method should relate to it, should seek to find an answer to it. And the method, the results, all should be the method that you used. The results must show on in these things. So there must be a relationship throughout, from the background, objective, method, results, and then the conclusion. That's all. So are we okay?
Yes, we are.
Right. So, Madam, over to you.
Yes, thank you. Now we move on to our conclusion. And we will start with group 4 to tell us what you came up with your conclusion. And then we'll go to group 3. Group 4, please.
Hello.
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 Hello, you are welcome.
I'm representing group 4. Thank you. Yeah, I'm representing group 4. Group 4, the conclusion here is that the researcher came out with the findings that the research work was consistent with the previous research findings that were done concerning geriatric customer satisfaction on pharmaceutical care at community pharmacies, and that they were satisfied with the various parameters that were set for research. That is customer satisfaction with efforts of pharmacists to improve their health. Looking at the percentage that came up which was 95.5%, gives an indication that they were satisfied with pharmacists' efforts at improving their health. And then with respect to pharmacists answering their questions relating to their health conditions, they were also satisfied. And that of satisfaction on their various health conditions, they were also satisfied. So overall, the respondents were satisfied with the pharmaceutical care services rendered to them. But then there was less satisfaction with the accessibility and then availability of pharmacists at the pharmacies. That is, most of the times they do not meet pharmacists. And then with respect to their contact time and then the availability, they are not there for them. So there is much left to be desired with respect to pharmacists' availability and then accessibility. But in general, the respondents were satisfied with the pharmaceutical care that pharmacists in the community pharmacies were rendering to them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Group 3, please.
Okay, I'm representing Group 3. So in our conclusion, geriatrics customers were satisfied with pharmacists' medication information management and pharmacists' efforts at resolving their medication therapy problem. Community pharmacists need to devote adequate time to geriatric customers' medication information need and also improve upon their availability and accessibility. That's what we came up with, our conclusion.
Thank you very much. Please, any other comments? No comments. Pharmacist Bruce, would you like to?
Yes, I think Group 4, all of them are online. Got the point. But I think Group 4 wrote too much. They were giving reasons. You don't give reasons and all those things at the conclusion here. For what do you call it, the abstracts, because you want to be as brief as possible. You see, and yes, the last one too was okay. It was quite brief, but what did I notice that your last point where I think you added something that recommendations and things that I don't think those ones should really be included at the conclusions, put in the conclusions here. This one is discussion and all about those other things. It should be in the main paper. And so I would suggest what I think it should have, maybe we could have, how we could have written that, and this would be the geriatrics respondents were satisfied with the medication information management skill and pharmaceutical services offered by the pharmacies. And that was, brief. However, pharmacists' availability at the premises was less satisfactory. That's all. I think this for me, this should be brief as brief as that. No explanation and no, straight to the point.
Thank you.
I don't know. Yeah, perhaps you could also
much.
add your view to it.
Yes, I also agree that the explanation need not, the recommendation need not be captured. What is necessary is they were satisfied with this and they were not satisfied with that. And you have your summary for your abstract. Yes. So But I think, Mr. Bruce, what do you think about how much we have learned and how we have been able to summarize the paper so far? Your thoughts on the work that we've done today?
Well, I think we've done quite well and quite a lot too. And I think I also believe that the participants so far get the drift.
Yeah.
They get it. They know what they have to do.
Yeah.
And they get it. But they have to improve upon
summary writing.
I mean, making it as brief as possible. And then you go straight to them. And then you don't say anything that is, like I say, it's outside the paper itself. Everything should be, this is informative. It gives us direct informative from the listing, not like indicative type, where you say that this one contains this, but you don't give what exactly. So everything must be in a. So they have. I think participants have the drift. They are able to recognize, for example, the introduction, what should be there, answers to this and that, the what and why, method, how and I think they've gotten it, but they have to practice more, and then to kind of make it shorter, make the whole thing shorter. Straight to the point, and you can read them fast within finish reading it within a short time, and then know exactly what is in the full paper. That is my. So this is some practice in reading papers, identifying the substances in the various sections, and then putting them together as briefly as possible. That's all. So that's my view, my final view.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Bruce, I'm sure you will be available to provide support for any of the participants today who may have written a paper and they are working on submitting it and they want to put together an abstract. I'm sure you will be ready to provide some guidance.
More.
To be as brief as possible.
Yeah, I will be very willing to. I'll be proud to be part of making these young men and women great scientific paper writers, especially when it comes to the abstract.
Thank you.
Thank
you so much. Thank you. Mr. Tinkran, please, your hand is up.
Yes, very briefly. I must say that this is a skill that every researcher or writer must, adopt. And, my own experience, I had to write my abstract about 4 times, reducing the words. It was very painful. I felt very pained when I had to, remove some details. But still, yes. Oh yes, I mean that's how it is. You feel but this man, I need to bring in this. He says, no, my friend, go back. I had to scale it down a whole page to about just over half a page. And after reading and when he accepted it, I read it again and I thought I should agree with him. So it's a scale, actually a scale. And we need to be practicing and practicing. So it's a very, very good thing that, the college has, brought in this particular aspect of, and that's, what do you call it? The abstract is very, very important. When you read from other publications, you tend to admire how it is written. And that is the kind of skill that we need to develop. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Pharmacist Constance, your hand is up.
Yes, Madam Rector, thank you. I just have a small question. From what we've discussed, I gather that the abstract comes in after you are done with the full work. so that the abstract gives a summary of everything you have done in your work. But when we're asked to present our proposals, as part of the requirements, there's supposed to be an abstract. So I just want to know, is an abstract part of the proposal, should I say the components of a proposal? And in that case, what are we writing for conclusion? What are we writing for results?
Okay. So let me try and answer that, and then maybe Mr. Bruce will help me.
Okay.
Yeah. So in that case, when we are talking about your abstract, we are talking about it is more the meaning of what we call the abstract than the abstract of a scientific paper, as in a summary. So you are proposing that this is the work that you want to do. And so when you are in your work, in that abstract, we are not expecting, you don't have results because you haven't done the work. However, you have an idea of what it is that you are expecting to find. And so you can capture that as maybe what your expectation. And I do not think that the abstract that you were asked to give was in the structured form. It is supposed to be like that informative abstract, the kind that Mr. Bruce gave the example that he read out. So this is what you want to do. You are not expected to give results because you do not have results, but you are saying that this is what I'm going to do, and this is how I think it will benefit the information that I'm going to come out with. I think it is going to benefit the practice in this and this and this way. This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. And what I'm going to come out with, this is how I think it will benefit us. That is the abstract that you are supposed to write, because it is an abstract of your proposal presentation, and your proposal presentation does not have any results. So that's the thing. But so that one could be more of that indicative abstract that Mr. Bruce mentioned. But when you have finished your work, when you have finished the whole work, you may come up with ideas, some which go one way or go the other, as the discussion. I think it was pharmacist Yakoba Emisa who mentioned that one. So you are looking for one particular thing and you find other things. So when you find other things, you may want to write 2 or 3 papers out of the work, the dissertation. When you write those papers, each paper, based on the heading and what it was that you found from it, the results, the abstract may be different because it is based on what the paper is. I hope I've been able to answer your question. Thank you. But Mr. Bruce, if you have something to add.
Yes, I think the abstract is talking about, I mean, you said what you said, it's generally right. Yeah, it's more of indicative than informative. And what he's actually talking, I would rather prefer to call it something like an outline of what you intend doing. Outline how, it's more of, it's a summary of what you intend doing. I mean, if you have it can be a scientific abstract like the one we are just discussing. Everything. When I say scientific, maybe since you are doing science, you say it's like when we say scientific, we're talking about the IMRAD format and all of this. But the one that you're talking about, it can't be like that because you don't have you don't have results. You can't come to a conclusion. Yeah. But you indicate the things you want to do, what you do it. You give an outline. So that is also an abstract because, like I told you from the beginning, abstract is simply a summary of what's a big thing that is there, something that you do. It's a summary. So a summary of what you want to do. That's about all. It's certainly not a scientific abstract, informative abstract like that follows strict objective method. No. It's not. it's not that type. So this is all I can add to it.
Okay,
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Please, can I ask a question? Can introduction, take the place of an abstract in the proposal? It's a question.
I don't think so, sir. I think something that could be similar would be what they call an executive summary, but that is even much lengthier than an abstract.
Yes, that one is.
Yes, that is also an abstract. It's also a summary. I mean, generally. So, Mr. Tenkran.
Yes.
Your question again. Maybe
the question derives from what Lady Constance asked. I suppose she was asking as to whether before when you send your proposal.
No, I mean the question you asked. That's all.
Yes, it followed from what the lady asked.
What was
that? The question as to whether an introduction can take the place of an abstract, because an introduction in the proposal, the research proposal. Because if an abstract, I'm only asking, please. I'm only asking.
Yeah, it's not possible. Because when you are writing a proposal, you have an introduction, you have other things to write, other subtitles, headings to write on. The abstract should cover all that you have to write on, both the introduction and the other that you want to, the other subheadings that you are going to write on. Abstract is a summary of the law of the whole thing. It's not a summary of parts. You see what I'm saying? Sam, you get it?
Yes, I get it. The lady asks that because the results are not, if you like, determined. I didn't understand what.
Yeah, so that was we are saying, that her abstract cannot be the scientific formal IMRAD one. It should be indicative.
Okay, all right.
Yes, what is in the paper? It will indicate what is in the full thing that she's writing on. The full paper. She only indicates them. Like the one that I gave, where the man was saying that the one that I gave the lecture, that the recommendations have been set out. He didn't give the substance. You can't. But you say that yes, there will be this and that recommendations will be given. And that's it. It's more indicative than the informative one, the strict scientific IMRAD one. Is that clear?
Yes, sir. So
Okay.
Thank you very much. Pharmacist Constance, is it the old hand or is your hand up again?
The old hand.
All right. So thank you very much. Please, do we have any other questions on what it is that we are doing today, writing an abstract? Any other comments?
Yes, that people should just practice. Like Sam said, it's a skill. You all have the idea, but you have to practice it. You can take some papers and then try and practice it. You see that it's the easiest part to write of all the sections of a paper, the scientific paper, of a research paper.
Practice, 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 practice. Thank you very much. So today we have gone through writing an abstract. We've looked at the two different types of abstract, the two major kinds. And I am very happy with the question that Pharmacist Constance asked, because it brought out the importance of the indicative abstract as well. And we've looked at why all kinds of abstracts are important. We've practiced and learned how to do it, summarize our work and write our abstracts. And the motto now moving forward is that we should practice. So maybe you take 1 or 2 papers, you read, and remember one thing that our facilitator mentioned, that you get somebody, a peer, to review your abstract. So you can, maybe 2 or 3 of you can do it. You do your own work, whether it is your work or somebody's work, you practice, you write the abstract, and then you let somebody else review it, and you also review for that person. And I want to also point out that the expectation is when we have finished, at the end, we should be seeing a lot of papers and abstracts coming in, abstracts for our AGM, the Ghana College of Pharmacists AGM, and papers for the journal. And so having said all of that, I will say a very big thank you to Pharmacist Oscar Bruce for your time, for sharing your experience with us. We have really benefited from your rich experience. And thank you all for the questions, the contributions, the discussions. I moved through all the groups, and there were lots of discussions going on. Thank you all for that. I think one thing I may like to have, if you don't mind, is for each group to share your summary, what it is that you wrote down for the various things, and we'll just file it as some of the things that we have done, and then move it on in the future, see how far we've come, and this group, see what this group is doing together. And so I thank you very much for your time. I thank you for spending all of this time and participating so actively in the discussions. And thank you once again, Mr. Bruce. And the final thanks go to the Almighty God for making it possible, giving us grace, giving us, even though it has been raining of late, still the weather has not been so bad as to disrupt our internet access. And we've learned so much today. Thank you to all of you once again. Enjoy the rest of the month. You're welcome. Thank you, sir.
Right.
And see you again next month when we meet again on our next session.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.